What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Red?
We're here. It's Yo Boys, the Game Boys, not the Nintendo Game Boys. Don't sue.
It's been half a month since our last podcast.
It's been God knows how long since my last upload in general. So,
we have been, one might say, addicted to Elden Ring.
one might say
So
we have been literally no lifing Elden Ring.
I have beaten the game 3 times.
I
Yes,
haven't even beaten it once. I'm just having a lot of fun.
you're essentially doing what I did for my playthrough too,
Yeah.
which I need to clarify. If you're watching this video and you see Journey to my Elden Ring guide to the final boss, that is technically my third playthrough. My first playthrough was a mage. I did not start my Journey 2 with my mage. I went straight to my new character, the one that you saw in Journey 2. I just want to make that clear so we're not getting confused. Um, we have a lot to say about Elden Ring, so this might be a pretty long episode. Um,
You were there for my first experience. So let's talk about your first experience first. What was Elden Ring first like for you?
well, at first, I wasn't too happy with the game, to be completely honest. When I first got into it, I was one of the pre-order players. I had a lot of bugs, and I was a mage to do my first playthrough, like I said. And I felt like the mages were kind of overpowered. Um, and at that time, I didn't really explore much. I was just following the graces and playing with the multiplayer system since I knew, and this was my first time being able to play Dark Souls right away. Where I could play with other people. So I wanted to experience that. So I was doing a lot of cooperative playthroughs and things like that with people. So I missed out on a lot of the story. I was skipping a lot of the story to try to keep it for my playthrough with my samurai build. And ultimately, I did not enjoy Elden Ring. I felt like it was really short until I came back to it with my second playthrough. I also felt like it was the easiest Souls like I'd ever played.
That is a big say considering Darksiders 3 exists.
I haven't played it.
Okay, so like I'm not going to say anything. I wouldn't even say it's easier, but they're pretty neck and neck in difficulty.
Okay. I'll have to play that at some point then. Because I wanted to check out Darksiders Genesis and Darksiders 3 because I heard they were really big deviations from 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, huge. 3 is okay. I didn't agree with the big populace. That's a topic for another day.
I just want to clarify Dark Souls is one of my favorite games of all time. I've been a huge fan since Demon Souls on the PS3. They're probably the games I've played the most next to things like Destiny 2, racing games like Forza. Um, yeah, they're very influential. That my fandom stems from being a Zelda fan. Um, I I know this is going to be very cringy to a lot of people, including maybe even you, Red. But I felt like a lot of the difficulty from getting interested in Demon Souls in those games growing up stemmed from that because I felt like Zelda was kind of like this challenging RPG when I was younger that I had a lot of trouble beating enemies and things like that. And it gave me that same overcoming the bosses sensations.
Right. Yeah. This is the thing Dark Souls is known for.
Right, right. And I guess more importantly is the question of what is your experience so far? Now, you said you haven't beaten it,
I haven't.
but this
I've
is
made it. Yeah, this is great for me, right? I have made it perfectly clear in the past. I don't like Souls-like games. I'm not big on the genre. I didn't care for some of the main series entries. I don't like Code Vein. God of War is a 5 out of 10 game to me. Like there's just a lot there that I have to say about Souls-like games in general and why I don't like them very much. But Elden Ring is a different experience for me. It's so huge. I made the joke while we were playing it. There is so much game there
mhm.
because there is. I haven't felt this much open exploration since the original Legend of Zelda, the first time I played that back when I was younger. I
Right.
wasn't old enough to play that on release, but the first time I emulated it, it was a different experience than anything I had ever played before. The sense of open exploration, finding your way through new caves and new places, hidden walls, all of the weapons, the discoveries in magic and ashes and summons and greases and consumables, and there's so much game there,
And
and I'm kind of in love with it.
wow, really? That makes me really happy because I've seen you start to explore Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, and now you're
I
talking
am
about being interested in Dark Souls 3, and that's really exciting for me.
I am playing more Dark Souls 2. I bought Dark Souls 1 remastered just because I've always liked Dark Souls 1.
Mhm.
I didn't care for Dark Souls 2. Now that I've played Elden Ring and I'm going back to Dark Souls 2, there's a different appreciation for it, but I'm also a different kind of From Software fan. I was young with a bad PC playing Kingsfield, and eventually when the PS1 emulator got good enough playing the original Shadow Tower.
Fair. I mean, this is pre Miyazaki conversation too.
Yeah.
That's like when I was playing like um Ninja Blade. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great game, but
I
it's from
am
software.
full well willing to admit that games like the original Kingsfield series, Eternal Ring, and Evergrace are dated for what we have now.
Right.
But they are also very special for the time. It was a different From Software, but it's so similar to the From Software we have now. They really have kept the same energy for so long.
It's really amazing to see that they've maintained this instrument of chaos amongst so many of their games where it challenges the player to think on their feet and change their equipment to overcome obstacles and understand that you as the player, the human fault is the critical failure of the game. Like you are the reason why you can't beat it. You need to overcome this challenge. And I really appreciate that about Elden Ring, and that's what I appreciated about Zelda
A lot
growing
of
up.
popular people gave shit to Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy for the message it was trying to give out.
Right,
But the real message is that overcoming challenges and finding yourself satisfied when you've emerged victorious is a good feeling.
right.
It really makes you feel like you have done something with your very valuable limited time.
Which brings me to state this will be as spoiler free as we can possibly make it. We will be talking about some of the bosses and things like that, but we're gonna try to let people continue having their experience. If
This is
any,
one of those times I wish I had a soundboard because it'd be the perfect time to step in and be like, "Do you remember when Beep did this to Beep and Beep?"
right,
And missed bid opportunity. I need to buy a soundboard.
just get a stream deck. I bet you would love one.
They're
Oh,
expensive.
they're worth
I'll
it
get a
though.
launch pad.
That would work. Or you could just get a numpad and then get the software for the numpad.
Razor Tartarus.
I want one of those for my laptop for going to LAN events and stuff. Um.
Jeez.
Anyway, Elden Ring. So as I've stated to you several times, Elden Ring is one of the best RPGs I've ever played ever. It's a 9 out of 10 across the board. There are some things that I have qualms with, like repeating bosses. Um, but these are really small things. They change up some of the move sets. They implement multiple of them into one arena, which really changes up how you fight them. And that's really cool. And we saw in like Dark Souls 1 they repeated some of the bosses. We saw in Dark Souls 2 they repeated quite a few of the bosses.
What
Bloodborne,
if you think about like Dark Souls, how the story is written, how the gameplay mechanics work, how everything ultimately comes down? It's very simple and it's thematically simple.
yeah,
It all works together. The amount of repetition is just the right amount to match with the amount of repetition and everything else.
I
It's
agree.
taking these simple ideas and making them feel as complex as they feel that is a really defining art behind this whole thing.
Yes. Which I think that's what leans into my 9 out of 10 because I feel like I would give it a lower grade had it not felt fresh every single time. I don't mind so much running into the same enemy every now and then because, sometimes they'll pull out a new moveset that I've never seen and stuff like that. And I think that's really fun. But it would have been a lot to ask of a creator to have, what is it, like 110 bosses or something like that? Like an absolutely insane number of bosses in this game. And every single one of them to be 100% fresh and unique. I think that would have been a crazy ask. Is it
This kind of
impossible?
brings me into where I have to be like, this was an 8 out of 10 for me. And I think you know why.
Yeah, I do know why.
Yeah. Elden Ring has bosses that are not bosses. They are just AoE crowds with tougher NPCs thrown in to emulate bosses. And the real tedium comes from the fact that they are annoying and bombarding.
Right.
The difference in some moments in Elden Ring as compared to other Dark Souls games is that you almost never get extremely crowded in other Souls and Souls likes, whereas here there is always a horde of shit.
And
Always. And they didn't change the movement. So it isn't like it makes it easier to handle a larger crowd. They made it a little more fluid, but
right.
nowhere near fluid enough to handle some very particular moments.
So, if I may jump in, if you do end up watching my Elden Ring guide to the final boss, you'll notice that the beginning portion of the game I do not show, and I do not show the first main boss being defeated. This is on purpose. I want people to experience that much as possible. And
The
the
only thing I can say is be patient while you do it.
yes, take your time, enjoy the world.
Don't feel obligated to immediately follow the arrows until you absolutely need to.
Right,
Like when you get your flask at the beginning, when you get Torin at the beginning at the same time, after that, the world is yours. Enjoy it. See as much of it as you can. Just take it in for what it is.
right. And I was and this is why I said my story at the beginning because I feel like it's really important because it jaded me to my second playthrough. And I was like, this doesn't deserve the high praise that it's receiving. But once I stepped out from behind the grace and I said, no, I'm not going to follow the graces anymore. I'm going to run over here. I'm going to run over there. I started finding secret areas. I started finding secret bosses, different enemies locations, special items all over the place. And then I was like, that's what they did. They created a
There's
game.
more world than there is story.
They created a game
That's awesome.
with RPG elements that you can play for hundreds of hours, which I've done. But they also created a game that you can speedrun. They've somehow managed to create a game that is both fun for speedrunners and people who only play 4 or 5 games out of 10 years, you know? It's incredible what they've managed to accomplish with this game. It really is jaw-dropping, and more companies need to be looking at this game and going, "Why did this work?"
And if you're somebody who's never played a Souls like and it's not something you've usually ever been interested in, this is the one.
Now,
This is the one.
originally, you were not going to buy this game,
I was going to wait to buy this game for a while until I got it on the cheap. And
right?
then I was probably going to look at it, play it for a few minutes, kind of souls it and give up on it.
Hmm.
But I pushed it out. I stuck through the beginning, and when I got more comfortable with it, I started really getting involved with it, and it was such a good experience. There's so much good going on in Elden Ring. The architecture is really good. The gameplay, as compared to its predecessors, is so refined. There's so much finite movement now. It's very fluid. All of the combat feels much more input precise and timing based. It's less like a slog and more like an adventure.
Right. And with Elden Ring, you've okay, let's get into the beginning of the game because I don't have the tutorial or anything on my channel. I want people to experience that, but there is something really important that occurred between all of us with the introduction of this game. Go ahead and share your feelings because I feel
It
like yours are more important.
sucked. Oh my god. The first hour is probably the worst part of the game. It's a fucking grind. You die. There's nothing you can do until you start figuring out subtly what you can do. I had to spend my entire first hour in a cave grinding wolves. No fucking joke. I cannot express how much I hate that. I would normally quit after the first hour in any game.
Mhm.
But once I finally hit that point where I was just strong enough to get started, the game was good. The game was good and well paced from there forward.
And we should clarify that Red is playing differently. He's doing a very handicapped playthrough on purpose to give himself the very powerful experience of this game. You are not summoning cooperative players, correct?
No, no, I'm not summoning cooperative players. I'm not using spells or incantations. No faith, no glintstone magic. I'm using very rare ash summons. When bosses come around, I use the same ash summon that I've used since the beginning of the game. I ran with the meat hook for most of the game up until now. Uh, I've really been just kind of running on consumables, greases, and the hopes that I'm good enough to get through it. And you know what? I've made it quite far,
Right.
all things considered.
Yeah, definitely. And
It was just that first hour.
we should be clear he's not talking about the first boss fight with the
No,
grafted that throws you off the cliff. That is a
no.
Souls staple.
Yeah, that is a good moment. It's a good introduction. But everything after that, from the flask up through the first hour, is bad. It's garbage.
And I have
It-
to share that opinion as well. Like, you see torrent, you see all these things in the conversations and the trailers and everything, and you don't get torrent right out of the gate. Like, you have to struggle just to get to the correct grace or location in the game to get torrent, and that is very frustrating, especially for new players who don't explore Dark Souls regularly.
I'm I'm particular about playing games. If that first hour doesn't hook me, usually I'll just turn it off and move on. I'm known for turning off games halfway through because they've eventually lost my interest. It it's just one of those things that happens, and I haven't been able to let Elden Ring go.
I don't think you should. I even when you get to a point where it's like Radon, and I don't want to spoil anything for Radon, but
I
it's a
I am
summon required fight.
I am as addicted to Elden Ring as I am to Valorant.
Really.
And that's saying a lot. Like I have 190 hours in Valorant, and 150 of those hours came from just these last two seasons.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I have 70 hours in Elden Ring now. I am just as addicted to Elden Ring as I am to Valorant.
I have 152 hours in Elden Ring as of right now.
Damn.
I went hard. Like, once I got through the beginning slog and I realized I do not have to fight those bosses, and I left and I was like, I'm gonna go look for something else. I don't want to deal with the wave of enemies while I fight two bosses. I don't want to deal with the stupid fucking statue that kills you so fast that you can't even blink. I left. And then I started doing more of the exploration.
There's so much shit right in the beginning, right in the introductory open world that can just kill you.
The
Why
tree
is there
sentinel.
a tree guardian? Yeah, why is there a tree sentinel right on the beginning path? What the fuck?
And
I quit Breath of the Wild over bullshit like that.
I don't really mind the tree sentinel as much because he's more just there to be ominous and create more of an emotional impact.
But the
I
problem
think.
is the NPC's field of vision. This is something that can be fixed.
Right.
That particular NPC's field of vision is a bit too long for detection.
Right.
It makes it more difficult to navigate around. I'm sure not everybody had this problem, but when you're stuck in the beginning of a game where you need to explore in the beginning, it really does make it difficult to explore.
Yeah, because you come out of the what is it, mausoleum, whatever it is,
Yeah. the
And
graveyard of something or other.
one of the things I noticed in your playthrough in particular is, you almost missed the grace right outside the front door. You almost missed the person that was right there. You almost missed the summon station. You ran around the mausoleum, and
I'm Tritopic, you know that, right?
yes, I know.
And you see the tint in Elden Ring.
Right.
To me, the tin is a solid, solid red practically everywhere. When I saw the first Grace, I had no clue what I was looking at because when I play a Souls game, I'm used to almost a dark, solid gray with some green tints, and then the bonfire standing out as this solid red object in the middle of it all.
Yeah. And I don't mind pointing out little things like that, knowing your situation. But there was a lot of times when I would see you doing things, and we had this conversation where I did have an issue with backseat gaming, especially with Elden Ring, because I got really excited and I was enjoying this game so much I wanted other people to share that experience. But I was kind of directing you, and you were kind of
Yeah.
like, "Don't do that." And I
Your
learned that.
experience was becoming my experience, and
Yeah,
that's not the way to play a game like this.
right.
Somebody else's experience should never be your experience in an RPG.
Which
Otherwise, you're not role playing right.
right. Which is why if you do end up watching the Elden Ring guide to the final boss, you'll note that I do avoid a lot of spoilers. I The only purpose of that video is to show people how to get to the final boss. That is it. I am not showing you the opening of the game and I am not showing you the ending of the game because everything in between I want you to do. You know what I mean? There are so many endings and options and characters and things that you can do that change the entire layout of this game and how it functions. I don't want to take that away from people. I specifically chose not to do anything. I didn't
I feel
speak
like
to
I
any
have to tell
NPC.
I feel like no spoilers, but I feel like I have to tell you, if you beat the game once on the main set path and you did absolutely nothing else, you saw effectively 40% of the entire game,
If that.
if that.
Because, I mean, there's what, six secret areas that you need to do special tasks just to get to?
Yeah. It's so crazy how much optional open world there is because you're not supposed to just follow the path given.
Right. And they set up the main path for new players. Like, oh, I'm supposed to go into this area and follow this grace to this area. Then you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And it could be like an MMO where you just go stand out front of the gate and kill the enemies, run back to the grace, but that's not the way the game's designed. It's designed for you to go explore, find little sub bosses all over the world, explore
And
at
you know what?
night, explore it during
And
the
you know what?
day.
If you're really, really good at Souls games, or if you just naturally have a knack for it when you pick it up the first time, you may have a fucking amazing first hour experience.
Right.
You might think it's a breeze. You might enjoy all of it up until the very moment you hit the first major boss.
Hmm.
And then I guarantee when that first major boss drops its first major issue, you're going to be like, what the fuck, man? I was so close. I was right there over and over and over again because this is Dark Souls. You will lose your souls over and over and over again.
I just want to put something into perspective real quick. I'm not going to tell you which ending I got, but 9.1% of the 12 million sales of this game have finished it.
That is a
9.1%.
small number. Y'all need to get out there, crank that number up. That is tiny. Not enough Elden Ring players are finishing the game.
And that is for one of the more difficult endings. For one of the easier endings, 3.2.
See, that's not good, guys. More people need to finish Elden Ring. There are ways to go about finishing it. If you've never finished a game before, it's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'd always recommend Resident
I,
Evil, but
well,
it,
yeah.
it's still a good one.
I feel like this game is going to be setting up the next generation for some insanely competent games. The industry
I
doesn't
hope.
have a choice right now. After this is it. Like, there is not going to be another Code Vein where it's a decent Souls like, but it's like one of the weakest Souls like in the franchise.
It's a mediocre experience at best
Yeah.
with a very terrible story that is no has no writing.
I
I just throwing that out there.
and I made you play that game. And I did it on purpose because I just wanted you to see what a bad Souls like could be. Even though you already knew, I just needed you to experience it.
I'm also not a Souls-like player. You know,
You are now.
I am a fast-paced hack and slash player.
Not anymore.
Well,
You're
I'm
into
running a
it.
dagger.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm running a dagger for like that specific reason.
That's not 100% why, and you know it. The
Because it's
daggers
got
are
good
good.
speed.
You were a bandit from the start.
I was using the axe at the beginning there. That hook is not a dagger, it is an axe, and it is a really good one.
Yeah, but the bandit starts with the dagger.
The bandit starts with a scimitar.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I thought I started with the dagger. My
Nope.
mistake. I
The
mean,
old bandits started with daggers.
and yes, this game is a huge deviation from what you play, and I'm happy that you were able to get past that beginning slog and find your rhythm and start exploring because it would have made me really sad to get on this show right now and be the only one who's like really excited for this game and super excited to talk about it because I just feel like this is one of those games that everybody needs to play.
No,
It's
yeah, once in a decade we get a standard setting game. This is our once in a decade. Take advantage of it and appreciate it while we have it.
I mean, we had Halo Infinite. Let's be real, that was also incredible.
It was good, but was it Elden Ring good?
No,
No. It
no.
was Doom Eternal good.
Yes, yes. Doom Eternal was another one that was very good, but those are not games for everybody. You know what I mean? And I mean, Elden Ring's not either.
No, by no means. If you are not a fan of heavy games, if you are not a fan of insane difficulty that requires precision and timing, if you're not a fan of learning something new, I should say, then maybe don't play Elden Ring.
Or
Like if you are
crypticism.
not willing to learn to play it, just don't.
Crypticism is another one. Like a lot of people don't like Dark Souls because the story is not in their face. It's a lot of, I think this is what's going on. I'm going to go talk to these characters and read this item description to figure out what am I doing? Why am I doing it? You know, there's a lot of cryptic information being portrayed that is hard to
We know
put
there
together.
are we know there are some people out there who don't get the same enjoyment out of asking questions that other people do.
True.
And if you're like that, I all I have to say is why are you here? How did you even get here? If you're incapable of thinking and asking questions, how did you make it to this podcast?
Also,
What
hello.
the fuck are you doing here? Go out, play Dark Soul, play Elden Ring because you need it, because you need to learn to make decisions for yourself.
Right. Oh my god. And watching some of the younger streamers, and I'm older. I've said this in every single podcast. Um, just like belligerently killing NPCs and things like that. And I'm just like, oh, don't do that. But at the same time, hey, you need to learn from your mistakes. You need to learn from your decision making, and understand that this world will not just let that slip by. It's not like old RPGs where you can just get away with that.
Yeah, now there are like actual standards and precise timing down to the nanosecond where you as the player are responsible for your actions. We have very greatly refined all of the standard video game types we play today. If a developer gets it wrong, it's obvious.
Right. Mass Effect Andromeda. Um,
Yeah. Oh my god.
see, Mass Effect Andromeda could have been such a good game. It's so much potential.
I disagree heavily. I don't think Mass Effect ever had potential.
Fair enough.
But
We'll have
we'll
to
have to
come back
talk
to
about
that.
that at
Yeah.
some point. Yeah.
Well, because I just got the Legacy collection and I have Mass Effect Andromeda, so I'd like to play that at some point.
I'm
But
willing to play through Mass Effect 1 for a little bit but Mass Effect 2 is a slog and Mass Effect 3 is literally nothing. So,
but we have to give it a fair shake. You know what I mean?
I
We
will
have to
give
go through it.
Andromeda a fair shake because I just kind of shit on that one
We
when
can
it came out.
we can skip 1 through 3. That's fine with me. We could just do Andromeda. That's perfectly acceptable because you don't need to know Mass Effect 1 through 3 inside and out to understand Andromeda. Andromeda is its own thing.
But then I have a whole other question. How is EA performing as a company right now toward their
Absolutely
employees?
dog shit.
Exactly. Why the fuck would I play an EA game?
To shit on it.
That
Just
that's not even I wouldn't pirate their game to shit on it because it's not worth my time. My metaphysical time that has absolutely no bearing on them at all is not worth playing Mass Effect.
Yeah, we'll have to hold
I'm
off on that.
sorry.
We have way more important games coming up anyways.
Yeah,
Like
it's not
very
that.
important to you. And
EA
yeah,
games is bad.
let's
EA
not
games
we're probably gonna
sucks
skip
like a
EA.
big one.
Like we're not gonna be touching Activision games for almost a year moving forward. Like like we're waiting for the entire acquisition to go through before we even touch Activision. Like wild, right? This is the world that we live in. Man. But anyways, we're talking about Elden Ring. Um one of the biggest things Elden Ring has once again reinforced in me is that companies can make good games when they put in the effort.
That is a fact. There are so many games that do not get the amount of effort they deserve. Oh, Cyberpunk.
Ooh, got him. Should have been an Unreal 5 from the gate.
Yeah, what the fuck, guys? What made you think Red Engine with all of your individual bags of garbage was a good idea? You wrote it in JavaScript. JavaScript is known for memory problems. What the fuck were you thinking?
They
Honestly.
weren't. They weren't. They just weren't thinking. Let's be real. They thought that they could save money. It must have been a higher up decision, and they went through with it, and it was a
Use the
terrible
same
choice.
old ass unoptimized engine we've used forever that caused problems when The Witcher 3 launched that everybody seemed to blow over. They blew over that. Why wouldn't they blow over Cyberpunk? Because the game wasn't finished. Elden Ring is a good finished game. There is so much game
Ooh,
there.
big disagree.
It's not quite totally finished.
Have you seen some of the console performances? Not that we really give a shit, but it's bad.
Mm,
It's like
I
crisp loading it up on his 5400 RPM hard drive bad.
okay. I did not shit on consoles too bad with Cyberpunk 2077 because it ran good on my 750 Ti and not consoles. That is a console issue.
I
I
agree.
hate to be that guy. And it really does make a difference. It's fucked up that they can't play the game that they bought on the console they bought it for. But that is a console issue.
Well, we have a whole
That does not
podcast.
detract from the quality of the game. I don't think the game is unfinished because the hardware running it is incapable of running it.
Right. We have a whole podcast discussing why people should not be buying consoles if you're interested in that. Monstermecha, Resident Evil 4, and technology culture. Big recommendation. We make some really good points in there. Argue with us. We're not going to argue back. We're going to have a
No,
conversation.
challenge me. I will argue back. I will have a very, very rational argument with you and provide sources to my arguments because that is a good argument. Arguing is good. Having a discussion is good. Arguing is also good if arguing is done healthy.
True. Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
need to
true.
make an argument to have a discussion.
You're right. I never really looked at it like that. I always just try to provide conversational topic instead of agremental. Agri- Agreementative?
But that's where the other person coming against your comments comes in.
True.
Making the argument against you, in which case you make the argument back against them, and it becomes an
A
argument,
discussion.
which can be a healthy discussion.
Yeah, that's true. It just depends on like how people are reactionary to it.
Yeah, how are you handling that discussion in the moment?
Can you be mature enough to have a conversation in a healthy form?
And if you can, we like conversation.
Yep. Well, yeah, obviously. And what I was gonna say is on release, Elden Ring had a lot of really bad frame drops. Some of the pop in can be really annoying. I am playing on a very good computer. I still get grass pop in, things like that. The particle effects can be very taxing on some people's hardware. If you're not running an SSD or a fast enough hard drive, it can have loading issues. Those are unavoidable, but we are living in the 21st century where game developers are expecting you to be on an SSD. And say what you will, I think you should have an SSD. It's time to get an SSD. That's what this game has taught me.
That's what many games ago taught me. You
Mhm.
shouldn't need Elden Ring to tell you to get an SSD. You should need a good conk on the head with your friend's baseball bat to tell you to get an SSD.
It's a little bit harder from a perspective point for me because I own a server. So, I have gigabit Ethernet running majority of my games off
That
of.
is a totally different situation to any general consumer.
Right.
There aren't many people out there running massive servers out of their house.
I'm definitely not your average consumer. 100% not. Um, so why did Elden Ring change your perspective so much? What was it about it?
The refinement. Honestly, it was just how fine tuned everything had gotten. I hit a point with Dark Souls 2 when I played it the first time where I was tired of the repetition. I felt like they didn't make any progress with it. It didn't feel like a sequel, it felt like a DLC. And I initially gave up there. And anytime I played a Souls like after that, it was an easy copy that never really did what the original Dark Souls did for me. But Elden Ring is like they stepped backward, right? Like they looked at what they did right with Dark Souls 1 and apparently Dark Souls 3, and they took everything that worked and they refined it down perfectly. They took a note from Doom Eternal and just made it work.
I would say the same thing with something like Breath of the Wild. I know you're not a fan of Breath of the Wild, but they kind of took uh, the inspiration of everywhere you look is somewhere you can explore
Yeah,
logic,
I would argue
and they
I would
made it
argue
so
Breath of
much
the
better.
Wild's gameplay and idea is better than a lot of the Zelda games from previous series history,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't say that they actually accomplished what they set out to accomplish because Breath of the Wild's world is fucking empty.
Right,
Few towers, bunch of grass, nothing really that's like super worth exploring, and then the main areas.
right. And I would honestly say if Nintendo ever wants another Breath of the Wild, like Breath of the Wild 2, to be extremely successful, they need to be looking at Elden Ring right now, and they need to be
Fill the world.
build a
Just make
world.
more stuff. Fill the world.
And I understand the argument that people have of, oh, it was on the Wii U, oh, it was on the Switch. That's Nintendo's problem, not our problem as reviewers or people who want to play those games. That is their problem. It's time for them to grow up and understand that technology has moved forward and they need to play catch up now.
Yeah. There we are at a point now where technology is far beyond some of the things that they have offered, and they have been like that forever. The Wii, I don't know if anyone remembers this. The Wii was underpowered like hell for the time. It was the
Mhm.
last of a dying kind of hardware. It was barely stronger than the GameCube. It did just what it was meant to do. The Wii U was the same thing. The Switch is the same thing. The Switch came out in 2017 and it's barely good enough to run things like The Witcher 3, which runs perfectly fine on a day one Xbox One.
Right. I just don't want people to respond to this conversation with those points because they're not valid points. They're not realistic arguments to the world that we live in. Why would I choose to have a lesser experience on weak hardware when I have the ability to spend the same amount of money and get a supercomputer? I just built
Yeah.
my friend a computer for $700 with an RX 480 and a Ryzen 1600X. Like, not the greatest computer in the world, but it'll run Elden Ring at 60 FPS medium.
Better than that Chromebook you spent fucking $200 on, probably out there, consumer.
Right.
Sorry to tell you that your Chromebook, Xbox, iMac, iPhone combo is shit, but it's kind of shit.
And we get into technology a lot because it is really important. Like, the arguments that are being made are in fallacy. When you look at the real world and what some companies are attempting to do, I always use my phone as an example to compare it to like iPhones and stuff. 12 gigabytes of internal RAM, half a terabyte of storage, has a GPU. It's better than your phone, and it was $300.
I turned a 10-year-old all-in-one gateway PC into a viable gaming PC that right now is sitting at the middle tier and will still play everything. It's
Right,
running a first generation Intel Core i series i7. Yeah, like there's an argument to be made for not running DDR3 these days because there are some things it's not great at and the FPS isn't great.
right.
But you know what I spent building this whole thing over the last 4 years?
150
Initially,
bucks.
yeah, initially $150
That's it.
for everything. I've upgraded 2 things since then. I found a super cheap power supply at a good deal that was $10. And I found a better graphics card that I was willing to spend another $150 on because it can upgrade further.
It just keeps going.
Yeah, it just keeps going. This PC is it came out in 2011. It's 11 years old. It's almost 12 years old. It's old as fuck and it's still keeping up with modern hardware.
And let's not also ignore the fact that Elden Ring is a last generation game. It runs on the PS4 and it runs on the Xbox One. Like, this is a last generation game. And this is how good it can be.
Yeah, this is where we've hit the pinnacle of the last generation. This happens at the end of every generation. We always get the absolute best, the most out of what hardware can accomplish at the end of a console cycle because the PC is trying to move beyond that already.
Right,
Consoles are a limiting factor for a lot of games. Watch Dogs 2 was artificially limited in its graphics capabilities between the E3 reveal trailer and the console release to fit in line with the console release. And you know who got hurt? PC players who had to mod the original graphics back into the game.
right. And this
What
is this
happened?
is this is a constant issue that we are facing. Um, I don't know why people think consoles are the biggest gaming platform when they're clearly just not. They're just not at all.
They're
Not
just
even
not.
close. Not even close. They are a very small percentage. And you can pull up graphs and you can try to say, oh, well, if you look at this graph, we're talking international. I traveled to Japan. They have PC gaming cafes everywhere. When my friend went to China, they had PC cafes everywhere. My buddy went to Thailand. He's a nurse. He went to Thailand, and he went to a hotel where you got a gaming PC in your room. Like, when you start traveling internationally, like if you go to Brazil, if you go to Thailand, Japan, China, Indonesia, areas like that, you don't see consoles anywhere. Mobile games and PC everywhere.
Yeah, it's at that point when you're traveling internationally, having a console makes you an enthusiast because like nobody has that shit.
Nobody bothers with it. Nobody. Corn Electronics, look them up. Just look up Corn Electronics. They are the massive supplier for cafes. That's their entire thing. They supply cafes. It's just what they do.
And Corn's low end stuff is pretty good.
Hmm.
You can buy some of it. It's pretty good stuff.
I mean, for what it is,
It's usable stuff. I
I'm
mean,
not recommending it.
th-
I'm just saying it
it's
exists.
yeah, it exists. It's usable stuff that exists if you're willing to take the risk, like Hercules and power supplies. Was
Oh
willing to
yeah.
take that risk. That risk worked out for me. Cannot guarantee that risk will work out for you. Don't buy a $30 power supply that's 500 watts. I'm sorry, you're you're kind of underspending on yourself if you're buying a strong power supply that is a little bit too cheap. You'll probably run into real problems. Gigabyte had power supplies explode because of bad hardware choices. Do not skimp on your power supply if you buy a PC.
Yep. I have a 750-watt platinum, and it's been running for 14 years. No issues.
I Oh, the Thermaltake Smart 700 I've been using reliably for a couple years now.
Those are great. Those are very good. Thermaltake Smarts are actually what I've been using for my business for a while now until I switched to EVGA Golds.
The one I just bought, the backup supply for the eGPU on the other PC is a Senti 725.
Hmm.
It was extremely cheap, and they don't make those anymore. They were really good rated gold power supplies for the time,
Right.
rated silver power supplies for the time.
And what a lot of people need to understand, like when you have like companies like Corsair. Corsair is like the biggest manufacturer of power supplies in the world, if I'm not mistaken. They own the company Golden Wall. They are an OEM provider. Um, Sometimes these are just subsidiaries and rebrands from a white label company, and Corsair has been known to do that. So if you just do a little bit of research and find out where that's coming from, you very well could just be buying a different branded Corsair power supply. So it's
Yeah.
important to also do your research and understand what you're buying. And Elden Ring is a great example of do your research and understand what you're buying. It's not just an RPG. It's so much more. It all connects. This whole conversation connects, and I love that.
Know what you're getting yourself into.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to just follow the grace and get through the game and be like, I experienced it, fine. I
Yeah, that's
did.
your experience. That's the experience you wanted to have. That's good.
Good luck. You're not going to be able to do it. Challenge. It's going to be a lot. I don't know, man. You had me play Crisis Core, and you turned my opinion on that, and I'm happy that I. I mean, I bought you Elden Ring, and I
I'm
was
happy
like,
to have played Elden
"You
Ring.
need to play it. You need to play it." And you were like, and then you finally got into it, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's go!"
I couldn't say no. You were nice enough to buy it. I wasn't going to buy it for myself anytime soon, but I knew I wanted to play it at some point.
Right, and you're going back and you're experiencing Dark Souls 1 and your Dark Souls 2, and we're having these conversations about the greater lore. Has that piqued your curiosity into really going deep into Dark Souls 3 and things like that moving forward? Is that something you might do?
Well, I want to finish playing through Dark Souls 2 and play through Dark Souls 3. And then I think I'll just leave Bloodborne where it is cuz like I know where I stand with Bloodborne.
I think
And
Bloodborne's skippable.
yeah,
I mean, I think Bloodborne is an absolutely incredible game. I don't want
I'm
people to think that.
always going to be the guy that's like give me more Kingsfield, please.
Right. I
That'll never
understand
happen.
that. Yeah, I understand that. The same thing with Evergrace. I would love to see Evergrace get rebooted. Probably not going to
Or a
happen.
remake. A remake in the Souls like style. That would be great.
Hmm.
I would play Evergrace the Souls game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we've had these conversations. Does Evergrace and Forgotten Lands, is that what it's called?
Forever Kingdom.
Forever Kingdom. We've been having conversations if they connect to the Dark Souls universe, and we both kind of come to the conclusion absolutely.
Yeah, they do. They 100% do. There's no way they don't. If the developers come out and say they don't, I'm gonna be fucking surprised because there's no way they don't. That would be way too big a coincidence.
Right, I agree.
That would be way too big, too many coincidences.
And they might just be like what did they call it for Fallout 4? Um Sidestepped canon or something like that, where it's
Oh, you mean like the Brotherhood of Steel canon?
yeah, it's canon, but it's not connected. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
like the Courier. The Courier literally doesn't fucking mean anything. The
Except he means
Wasteland.
everything.
Yeah, he just means everything. He's literally the strongest human being on the planet. But despite being a totally unimportant character to the greater lore of Fallout.
Right. He's just like an entity.
Yeah, a being who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time way too many times
And
and survived way too many times.
I personally don't feel comfortable discussing the Dark Souls lore and the Elden Ring lore. Not so much of spoiler area, but like it's so
There's so much of it.
convoluted. It's
Yeah.
so hard and it's so much of opinion and your perception of how the games are being told to you that it's hard to comment on it. And I think like what is it, Vadi Vidya and all those guys, Swole, Dark Swolls, Iron Pineapples, those guys, they do a great job of like deep diving into the lore from an objective standpoint.
Like what is being directly shown to you.
Yeah. Instead of like, hey, this is your perception of it. This is how you interpret it. They're very read it. This is what it says. This is what it means. Moving on.
Speaking of lore, if you've never read the books throughout the Elder Scrolls series, that's very similar. It was intended that you read those because in understanding the world around you, you can interpret it in so many different ways.
The
What's
moons are
happening
dead
around you might
gods.
not just be what you think is happening in front of you.
Right. The moons are dead gods. That's
The
the one
moons are
I
dead
always go
god.
to that. Yeah, I always
The
go to that one.
Dragonborn has been a topic of existence since the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall.
Oblivion is just Silent Hill 3.
Skyrim was literally the birth of human. What did you just fucking say? Did you just disrespect Oblivion like that?
I needed to do it, man. Think about it.
Eat this shit. You just call fucking Oblivion silent. There he goes talking about Silent Hill again, and this time of all times, disgracing a beautiful masterpiece by comparing it to garbage like Silent Hill 3. What the fuck?
Oh my god. Oh, that's so good. Go watch the podcast on Oblivion. Obviously, I love that game.
Oh yeah.
But that's pretty much what this podcast entirely is just play this game. Just play it. I don't give a shit what you play it on. You could play it on the oldest PC in the world on the lowest
Or
graphical
play it on
settings. I
your
don't care.
fucking BlackBerry phone like Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I don't care. Just play Elden Ring. Like get good. Like
Play Elden Ring, and then when you're done with that, go back to the PlayStation 2, use some emulators, buy some shit on eBay, play the old From Software games, and
mhm.
and look at the difference between them. But also look at the similarity between them and be like, wow, this is incredible. It's amazing how far they came.
Right. Explore that lore. Like you might find connections that other people haven't noticed or we haven't noticed because those are conversations that I'm not seeing. These connections to these offshoot from software games. I mean, you have like Ninja Blade and Sekiro and um, Code Vein and things like that, Bloodborne, where a lot of people are kind of figuring out lore that kind of connects them, but nobody's really deep diving it. And I think there's a really good opportunity for content there for somebody to kind of explore the conspiracy idea.
Especially considering like how many of the older From Software games aren't well documented. You
Right.
cannot find fucking anything about the Eternal Ring story online. Go ahead and try. I implore you. You'll find the basic premise, the name of the protagonist, the name of the island, and the gameplay elements, and you will find nothing else.
Oh my god, that is from software. I always make the joke that Eternal Ring is H Tech.
Yeah, the H Tech was their publisher for a long time, pre Atlas.
It Eternal Ring is just that's something that we're gonna have to play later on because there's just so much here. It has the FP menu or the HP MP. It's got the crabs. It's got the ring. It's got the lizard monsters and
It would probably surprise you to find out that it's only like a 4 hour game.
oh, that's fine. I just want to experience it because
It's interesting for sure. It's a must experience if you're like a hardcore From Software fan.
I just want to see like how in the world can this connect? You know what I mean?
There's there's some blatancies right out of the gate, and then there's some little subtle things that you as a more knowledgeable fan will recognize and be like, "Whoa."
That's awesome. And like we said, we found out that Evergrace had a second game, so we'll definitely be revisiting that.
Oh yeah, that's interesting as fuck. I had no idea that existed until I did. Thanks, Bing.
And it goes even further than that. Like, we found out that the Darius playthrough is not the most important playthrough. We actually need to revisit that because what we thought was one of the more important story arcs ended up being one of the least important story arcs,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I would also like to explore some of the Dark Souls games, seeing the logo of the Eternal Ring, which is the dragon holding the Jade Gem. I wonder if that ever makes an appearance anywhere. I wonder if that has any deeper connections um, to the overarching story that's trying to be told.
There's a special ancient dragon that you might be very acquainted with.
Akil. No, not probably not Akil. Dragons play such an important part in Dark Souls lore. There's so much conversation, and I love the addition of like the arcane as a new magic. I think that's super cool.
That is very interesting. Uh, I feel like Eternal Ring was like, and we'll talk mostly about it in the podcast, but I feel like Eternal Ring was one of the first times From Software got together and we're like, all right, we're gonna look at our players, we're gonna say fuck you, get good, and then we're just gonna hope they get good. We're gonna like
Fuck you, get
seriously
good.
troll them right in the first 5 minutes, and then when we seriously troll them, we're not going to give them their shit back, and then we're just gonna be like, here, go.
I love it. I'm so excited. That's so awesome. Oh yeah, Vim's got it. Okay, sweet.
It's a
Shadow.
small game.
Yeah, half a gig.
For the PlayStation 2, even in 2002, that's a small ass game.
Right. That's wild. We just keep going down this rabbit hole and finding different things. I feel like every YouTuber who likes Dark Souls has talked about King's Field, but they're not talking about Evergrace. They're not talking about Ninja Blade. They're not talking about
I
Forever
implore
Kingdom.
anyone to talk about the original Shadow Tower instead of Shadow Tower Abyss.
Right. Right. Yeah. Not even just going like it's called Forever Kingdom. In Elden Ring, you can go to a place called the Eternal City, and I just see so many transparencies here where they might overlap and be important.
Ellig Tree cough.
Helgetry, yeah. Uh, Again, that's another secret area. Um, that's all spoiler free, right?
Yeah, nobody's gonna know what the fuck I mean by Hallig Tree until they get there.
Okay. I mean, you also have the Black Maiden from Demon Souls. That's another one that we haven't brought up. Why did Demon Souls get remade and then Elden Ring drop just a few months after that? I feel like there is some bigger connection here that people haven't really figured out just yet. And I know people are going to be like, "Oh, well, R.R. Martin helped with Elden Ring," but I mean, he didn't really do that much. It's still Miyazaki through and through.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin was there for world development and story. He was developing what they already had into something better.
I don't think Miyazaki is a great storyteller.
No. But I think the devs who are veteran devs too from software definitely are.
Mm-hmm.
100% they are the real storytellers here. And Miyazaki is a good director.
Absolutely. It's interesting to me because I feel like it was only like a half a year ago where I was like, "Oh yeah, I love Dark Souls," and you were like, "Fuck that," and now you're like, "No, I get it."
Yeah, I get it. Like the more I pay attention, the more I give a shit about it, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, I dig this a lot more.
Almost like that was the point of the podcast.
But that it also was like I was also kind of like that with the Fallout games because I was an early Fallout game fan before I played the newer Fallout games.
Fair enough.
And like it was the same situation, shitty PC. They were the only games I could play at the time. It was what I knew Fallout to be, and when I finally played the new ones, I was like, "Oh, so it's another Call of Duty." Because it was a first-person shooter and I was dumb and ignorant, you know.
It
I
happens.
gave Fallout 3 a chance before Fallout New Vegas, thankfully, because I wouldn't have played the best game ever made if I didn't play Fallout 3 first.
I I don't think you're dumb. I'm gonna make something really clear. I don't think you're dumb. Ignorant is you preaching things without knowing. I think you were nescient because you were uninformed, but
You're
you weren't.
naive.
Yeah, naive, nescient. I don't think there was anything wrong with those thought processes. I think those are completely normal. I mean, look at Wolfenstein 2009. We just replayed it. You thought it was a great game, and then you realized, oh, it's not. But there is good things. There's redeeming qualities to it.
There are some games where like my opinion doesn't shift at all. Like Silent Hill Downpour, I knew was bad, but also I still have that soft spot for.
That's disgusting. I can't believe you would say that.
Well, the only reason I had a bad experience playing last time is because you kept fucking cheesing everything, and I kept going, but it's Silent Hill, you like these games.
You were just being a dick to me. I know. But I mean, Last of Us is a good example. I would say that's a game
Yeah.
that you will not shift your opinion on. That is
No.
how you feel. You are grounded
Yeah.
in that. and you're no
It
longer
is not
ignorant.
good.
Like you've jumped into my streams, you've jumped into my entire playthrough.
I played The Last of Us 1
Right.
again. I played it again. I have a physical copy of it. I fucking bought a physical copy of it for that.
I'm so sorry.
It is a bad game. I regret spending $15 on it. I wish I could give it back. Instead, I need to find a good time to burn it so I don't have to look at it anymore.
And where I'm more, it's not great. It has redeeming qualities. It's totally skippable. The hype was overhype. But however, with Elden Ring, I don't think the hype fails.
I think hype depends on is one of those definite perspective things. Like as long as you're not over expecting things that it's clearly not promising, you
Right.
won't be too disappointed. You shouldn't be disappointed at all. If you walk into it expecting the game to be what it said it was going to be for all of this time, you're going to get exactly what it said it was going to be.
Are you taking notes, Ubisoft? All right. You're not? Okay.
Are you taking notes? Literally anyone who played Resident Evil 5, who was the guy who was like, make more Resident Evil 4, and then was like, I hate it, it's just more Resident Evil 4.
And then played Resident Evil 6 and was like, it's an action movie.
Yeah, like you wanted this. You
Thanks,
kept telling them to
fans.
make more Resident Evil 4. They made a better Resident Evil 4. You were like, it's all action at this point, and Capcom stuck it to you and said, you want action? We'll give you action. 3 campaigns full of fucking action. This is what happens when you listen to your fans, right? It can go really well, or it can go really south. Listening to your fans, listening to your devs, listening to the feedback from everybody is important.
Yeah, sometimes you got to stick to your guns and be like, no, what I'm doing is working.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to listen to the outside and be like, no, this is what just how this is.
Right.
Like this some things need fixed here and that's it.
And
Game developers listen to your fucking QA testers. I shouldn't even have to
oh
say
my
that.
god, please listen to us, the QA testers. I've I've already stated I have quit being a QA tester live. I'm done. I'm not doing it until I see progress in the gaming space because no joke, I'm not going to out this company. I'm not going to even give them the privilege of knowing who they are because they don't deserve my fucking time. But they on Steam had a post saying they were looking for QA testers, unpaid, beta access keys to the general public. And I commented, no, do not participate in this. We deserve to be paid and be treated fairly as the employees that we are. They
Right.
deleted my fucking post. Fuck you.
And what's wrong with wanting to be treated fairly for what is a genuine career? You ask the general public to play your game and they'll come up on a bunch of crazy shit. That's no lie. But if you want honest facts about that crazy shit and what you can do to make it better, your quality assurance testers are there to ensure you make quality products.
Because
That's a
guess what?
fact.
To be a good quality tester, we have to approach things with non biased perspectives. We cannot enter into something with perception of what we have been handed. We cannot have expectations for that project. It is not our project. It is only our job to make sure that project is good. And when you
Going in the
don't listen
direction
to
that it's
us,
supposed to be going,
you end up with
like
Far Cry 6. I'm
when you
sorry.
don't listen to them, you fail at your own project. You start losing the direction that you wanted to go. You're doing the opposite of what you yourself wanted to do in the first place.
You get
A QA
Assassin's Creed
tester's job is
4.
to tell you that you are doing what you set out to do.
You get Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Like you just oh,
You get you get GTA the trilogy when you don't listen to your QA testers, when you have no QA testers.
nobody wants to work for them anymore. This is what happens. Nobody wants to deal with it. I got sick and tired of being a freelance Q&A tester. I was sick and tired of them telling me that my format for reviewing a game and giving them feedback was not good enough. It no. No. That's not how this works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are providing the feedback that you were hired to provide, and you are not being treated fairly for that feedback that you have provided at their request. And that's always a problem.
And then
And
you
when you listen to your QA testers, you end up with games like Elden Ring, which
right.
are good, right? And they're fixing things constantly.
At some point, you need to stop listening to all of the feedback and understand that brand new IPs is a healthy way to move forward. We don't need Dark Souls 3 10 times in a row. And so they gave us Elden Ring. It's Dark Souls, but it's not. You have taken a working like style and you have manipulated it into something new. You have taken the clay that has been handed to you and you said, "Today I'm going to make a dragon instead of a stick figure."
And you did.
And you did it. And you did it. And you got a 9 out of 10. Probably
You
going
fucking did it.
to this might be one of our highest reviews moving forward for quite some time. That is very possible.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get a game as good as Elden Ring for a hot minute.
I
Unless
mean,
we get the medium too. In which case all of my attention is right there. Blueberry team, come on guys, I need that shit.
and which will be a really interesting dynamic because I probably won't give it the same review as you. I mean, I already know that that won't happen because I didn't enjoy the medium
I could be
one.
totally wrong. I could be totally wrong. The medium 2 could fucking suck and I might hate it.
True.
But at the same time, I need more of that shit, guys. Come on. I got medium withdrawal here. I played 13 hours. I beat it twice. I walked through the medium. It was a good experience. I need more of that shit.
I mean, you have like the Evil Within too. You know what I mean? Like that situation wasn't amazing.
You just fucking oh god, I don't want that to be the medium 2. I don't want that to be any 2. The Evil Within 2 shouldn't even be the Evil Within 2.
My point was is that you had the Evil Within 1, which was a more linear, structured horror experience, and then the Evil Within 2, which was trying to use more open world aspects. But it didn't take the time to understand that's not really what was necessary for the Evil Within. What made the Evil Within so great was not so much the characters that were given to us, it was how the story was portrayed and the horror that was utilized. You could
What
have
made the
given
Evil
us
Within so great was the fact that it was a new take on Resident Evil, where instead of a bioweapon, it was a psychological weapon. And Shinji Mikami knew what he was doing, right?
Shinji Mikami is a genius, let's be
It was
real.
100% like a Shinji Mikami property where he knew exactly what he was doing when he was doing it, and it turned out great.
I'm in
And
the field of people who feel like we don't need the reoccurring characters. The world that was set up could have been utilized for different characters in
yeah,
different
it could have been a
story
great
arcs.
anthology. I like Man of Medan. We differ on this opinion a little bit.
Yes.
Um, I like Man of Medan. I like the Dark Pictures anthology. I thought Little Hope was really good. It's just one of those things where, like, when you tell an anthology story with stemming from the same idea, it can work out.
Yeah.
Anthologies work. The Silent Hill should have continued to be an anthology from the time it started till the time it finished, and they should have been able to make the original Silent Hill 3.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, and I feel like that's the same thing with the Evil Within. Like, if there is a Evil Within 3, I would like to see brand new characters. I would like to see the same world, different outlook.
Look at Outlast. Outlast is a fucking awesome anthology series.
Facts. Facts. Just he just dropped the hardest fact in history. Like
Honestly.
there is just an anvil and he had it on a string and he was just like boom, Outlast.
I stuck my finger up history's bum and was like,
Got him.
"Mommy."
No, nope. Stop. Oh god. I mean, even Dark Souls. I mean, in many ways, Dark Souls is an anthology piece. I mean, you can take all of these games and construct them in a way that tells a formulaic story. But at the end of the day, it's kind of anthology to itself, you know?
Formulaic doesn't mean bad. If you
No,
have a
absolutely
formula
not.
that works, it's good.
If you
Eh,
plan on
But
telling a story in that way, of course.
yeah, but d- make sure that, like, what you're doing is actually meant to be done that way.
Yeah.
Know that what you're doing and what you're writing has started at the end. Never I died. Never write a story from the beginning. Start at the end, know where you want to finish, write everything before that after you've written the ending.
I'm
Otherwise, you'll end up with plot holes everywhere. You'll end up telling the story you don't want to tell. And if you need to do a sequel to that and you can't think of a way that ends it properly because your other ending already ended it properly, then do an anthology.
right. Or be Elden Ring and actually have different endings that make sense.
Be a multiverse. Be a multiverse universe. Be a world universe where you're like all of these different stories connect to each other in little bits and pieces. My personal psyche has written these stories, and those little bits and pieces are a tiny story that I am telling in the background of all of these things.
Great example, Remedy Games.
Yeah,
Yep. I don't know. I feel like a lot of companies are kind of just stuck in this Assassin's Creed logic where we need 17 games that are meaningless to each other, but they're the same game over and over again.
like okay, so like if you pay attention to the first few Assassin's Creed games, they had some direction.
Right.
And then Assassin's Creed 3 ended it. And they kept going. And that story that they were telling lost itself and there was no story anymore.
Oh, I thought there was harassment lawsuits and NFTs.
There was harassment lawsuits and NFTs years later, right now, because Ubisoft is a bad company. Um,
Well, let's not jump to conclusions. I think
well, yeah,
Ubisoft
allegedly.
itself,
It's our job as like outsiders looking in. Allegedly,
they have
Ubisoft
bad
is a bad company.
executives. Let's just say they have bad executives. 'Cause I think Ubisoft could be top dog creators moving
I think
forward if this
Ubisoft
shit gets
used to be
fixed.
great.
Yeah. I mean, Ubisoft was known for making some of the best licensed games there were for like PS1
Even
and
just that
earlier.
Rayman, Splinter
Yeah.
Cell. Splinter Cell. A fucking Splinter Cell.
Ghost
Like,
Recon 1, 2, they were phenomenal.
I feel like the Division got shit on a lot, but the first Division was
Oh, yeah.
pretty decent. It was the beginning of the downfall, and it was the last of a really good part of Ubisoft history.
Oh, I made a joke earlier about Far Cry 6. I haven't played it yet. I just want to make that clear. It was a joke.
Oh,
I haven't played it yet. I liked
Far Cry 6
5.
is a joke.
I liked New Dawn. I thought they were okay. That,
Far Cry 3 is Far Cry 4 is Far Cry 5 is Far Cry 6. They are all the same game.
yeah,
They're
formulaic.
all the yeah, very formulaic. They're all the same game, and they happen to be an anthology, and they do a good job telling an anthology story. But if you want like a good game, don't play Far Cry.
yeah.
They do good villains. That's what Far Cry does.
Oh my god,
There's
yeah.
the stories aren't great, the gameplay is not great, the worlds are empty as hell, like every other Ubisoft world.
Oh my god, could you
But
imagine if the Ubisoft writers quit and went and worked for actual game studios that gave a fuck? Oh my god, they would write some fucking incredible games.
they
Oh,
probably would have just the things they've already written turned into the incredible games they should be.
I would love to see, Far Cry 1, it had like the mutants and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was interesting. Far Cry 2 had the entire most of the map was covered in malaria. It
Right.
was like the entire game was disease ridden, so you had to travel light. That
Oh,
was one of
so
those.
good.
Yeah, it was
Genuine
really great
challenges.
games.
Far Cry 1 had
Far
such a horror element to it. Whatever
Far Cry
happened?
3 was standard setting for the rest of the series, and I don't blame them for following the trends because Far Cry 3 was fucking great. There was a lot to it.
Right.
There were a lot of brand new weapons designs. The world looked beautiful. There was the hang gliding
Blood
mechanics and shit.
Dragon.
There was all of the yeah, Blood Dragon was awesome. It's a good 2-hour romp for a cheap price, like if you were willing to play it at the time.
Right, I
I
agree.
like Blood Dragon. I think it's over the top and corny as fuck, and I love
Right.
it.
Sometimes Ubisoft just does these things that are absolutely awesome. Like
They make
I've been saying for a
they
long
make
time.
Assassin's Creed Unity. And they make Assassin's Creed Origins. Oh,
There was a point in my life, I want to say it was around the time Creed 3 came out, and I was like, "Oh man, could you imagine if they did like a cyberpunk Assassin's Creed?" They never did anything with it.
they literally did Watch Dogs.
Yeah, but Watch Dogs sucks.
Yeah, the first Watch Dogs was a really bad experience.
I would
Watch
love to
Dogs 2 had better gameplay, but they didn't do anything with it.
I would love to play Watch Dogs on the show and talk about it because there's a lot to say with the Watch Dogs franchise that,
I would rather play Sleeping Dogs, better open world
oh yeah.
sandbox.
But I would, again, I would rather play Yakuza. I'd rather play Sleeping Dogs than Yakuza.
Yeah. I still haven't played Yakuza. I
So good. But beat Elden Ring first. We'll get to that way later.
Moral of today's podcast and story: Elden Ring is good. Make your own decisions. Have an adventure.
Right.
And Silent Hill 3 is bad.
Well,
That's
yeah.
always the moral of the story.
Every episode. And then Ian goes, well, it's not the worst game ever.
I'm gonna get Silent Hill 3 is bad t-shirts made.
You're going to get Silent Hill 3 tattooed across your chest.
I'm gonna get Silent Hill 3 is bad tattooed right across my
You're going
forehead.
to get Heather Mason tattooed on your back.
Oh god, and you have a Heather Mason body pillow.
I do.
Adam,
I
why
don't.
would you say that?
I don't. I almost bought what was the rabbit? Um
The pink rabbit, the
yeah,
creepy
I
one.
almost bought one of those and it was like a 4 foot doll.
Have you ever fucking seen Silent Hill Revelations, the movie?
Yeah, that's why I didn't end up getting it.
Silent Hill 3 the movie, which is a sequel to Silent Hill 1 the movie, which are both wrong in so many ways, right? But Revelations was a special kind of wrong that had that very special crap U-Bowl energy.
Silent Hill
Like,
the
and I
films
don't
are
even think
just
it was a U-Bowl
garbage.
movie. I know U-Bowl did the first one. I don't even know if he did the second one.
Oh, may I spin the conversation real quick for the ending?
Yeah,
I am super curious if R.R. Martin is going to be dropping some kind of book to go along with Elden Ring.
that would be sweet. I would read an Elden Ring book.
Like I'm really curious if he's going to sit down with the writers and if they're going to like talk about everything that they've worked on and they're going to put together this big like overarching story that R.R. Martin's going to make this like cryptic backstory or prelude kind of thing. That'd be really cool.
Very cool.
Especially if
Very,
it
very cool.
especially if it doesn't follow any of the main characters and it's from like a unique perspective looking in. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah, it'd be a really interesting read. A good
Especially
lore book worth picking up.
especially if it remains cryptic. Like if it doesn't give you all of the answers, but it provides like a good world for you to be like, "Oh, so that's how it works," kind of thing, so you can go back and revisit and put the pieces together better. That'd be cool.
I was wrong. I need to correct myself. U-Bowl did not do the first Silent Hill. I always associate U-Bowl with terrible video game movies because he did them. Christoph Gans did the first Silent Hill,
Yes.
and then some other guy did
And he
Silent
was
Hill
just
2.
creepy. Like go watch his interviews. He's super creepy. He's super creepy.
MJ Bassett did Silent Hill 2.
Who owns Silent Hill again?
Fucking Konami?
No, no, the guy that bought it to make all the games.
Oh, Cuck Lord.
Yeah,
Um,
Tom Hewlett,
yeah.
Tom Cucklet. Fuck you, Tom Hewlett. You gonna do sue me? Go fuck yourself.
Damn.
I hate that guy. Oh, it's a game for the fans. It's a game for the fan.
It's a game for the you because you think you're the only fan. Subscribe to his only
Oh my
fans.
god. And then he has fucking Retcon Machine, his little fucking hypocrite, because his name's Hypnocrit on Twitter, stealing fucking Hideo Kojima's Fox logo and doing it in some stupid 70s logo. You're an asshole.
Well, that really bothers you.
Get the fuck out of the gaming industry. He's one of the problems. He's one of the problems because he treats his writers like shit. He makes them redraft everything. He doesn't know how to give information out to his team. He screws over his QA testers. You're a failure. Get out of the industry. You are like Activision to me. Just stop.
The real moral of the story: good teams with good leadership make good products and breed good results.
Let me give Tom Hewlett a little example. Red, how's uh how's Last Particle going?
Last Particle's going good. We have the design document has been drawn up for a while now. I have folders of concept art going for each character. A lot of the design structure's already been worked through, and we have a lot of things going on in the general layout of the world and the environment right now. We haven't moved into any voice acting. I've done a couple of small development tests, nothing really too substantial, but like there is a serious amount of progress put into this very short few person team project already, and it's going incredibly well. We don't disagree with each other, we collaborate. That's what makes it work so well.
Red is working on the game that I wrote. I've already kind of put this together. I've given him the draft, the mechanical ideology. What is the most important thing that I did when approaching you with this game concept?
Give me details. When you give an artist details, it matters. You need to give your artists and your designers and your programmers details about how things work, how things look, and the small finite details that you want included. Otherwise, we get lost. We can't do shit if you're not doing shit. That's a fact.
So let me put this into perspective for everybody. It has been roughly 6 months you've been working on this on and off, right?
Yeah.
I do not approach you and tell you what to do. I do not
No.
approach you and tell you to change things.
Oh
I
yeah, we
trust
work
your
ideas
opinions.
back and forth. It's a team effort, really.
Right,
You came to me with an idea that I found interesting and I wanted to provide my support on. And you're not shitting on my support.
right. Do you want to know what some of these creators do? Micromanage
Yeah.
everything. Guess what, everybody? I'm not a game developer. Red's the game developer. I am a QA tester who does mechanical drafts.
Yeah. I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I develop games. That's all my department. So he came to me with the big idea, most of the core writing. I cleaned up the writing so it was structured properly. I didn't change anything. I put it all together in a document that fit my purposes so I could stare at it better. And then from there, we spitballed everything back and forth for the first little while there. We spitball the ideas anytime I work on something, anytime he's got an idea. And we're never first immediately to throw each other's ideas out. We always begin with the why.
Why is the
Why do you
most
want to do
important
that?
question? It's the most important question. Give people reason.
Ask your
Oh,
developers why.
you
As
want
the
to know?
director, your job is to ask your developers and your artists why
You,
and let them
it's
explain themselves.
it's why Elden Ring works. I almost guarantee it. Oh, we should put a dungeon here. Why? Because it
Just
gives the
because.
players somewhere to go.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
more world here that's empty. There's nothing there. We could do something with this. Let me put a dungeon here to take like 20 minutes to put together, and we could do something that would be really fun with what we have.
and I almost guarantee there are a bunch of people out there who found a random dungeon with a boss in it, and it's their favorite dungeon, and they go there and they set up their co-ops and they hang out there because it's their favorite boss.
And even if they've seen that boss out in the world as a regular enemy, it's still their favorite boss
Right.
because it just is.
Because one person said, "Hey, I have an idea," and another person said, "Why?" And instead of saying no, they just worked together and got
They
it
were like,
done.
they were like, okay, so what if we also did this? And it became a collaborative effort.
So here's my problem with you, Tom Hewlett, and why I hate you so much. You have manhandled a franchise. You have micromanaged a franchise. You have dictated the teams that were sadly undeserving of the Silent Hill name. I apologize to those teams. For the most part, you guys handled it pretty well and did your best. I appreciate your efforts on the cutting room
I
floor.
really think I have to shout out the Downpour team because you did one game before that and you were selected solely based on the imagery for that game, and you still managed to put together a playable experience with a bunch of things you had never done before.
It was actually not horrible.
Yeah, like you did a playable experience with things you had never seen before. As Silent Hill teams go, you are the standout team. Be proud of what you did.
Agreed. However, homecoming team, come on, guys.
Don't be proud of what you did. You know what you did.
Bury that game. It is time to move on. Just put out a press release apologizing for Homecoming, please. That's all I need. But
Yes, star Chris, what do you think about Elden Ring?
Yeah, a good game. 10 out of 10. Buy it. Hashtag
Wow.
not sponsored.
he actually has a higher review than us.
Yeah, I was an 8.
Well, since Chris is here, Chris, you were a big fan of Witcher 3. How does that compare to your Elden Ring experience?
That is a question. Um, Witcher 3 is a good game. It's definitely a lot more simplistic's the wrong word. It's a lot more beginner friendly, I'll say. Like if
A
you've
good
never
description.
if you've never played an RPG before and you've really never played a game like that, you could hop in, set it to probably medium difficulty, and have a pretty fun, easy time. A couple bosses might give you a struggle, but overall, you could probably have a smooth experience. With Elden Ring, you will get your ass kicked repeatedly, over and over again.
Yes, you will get very mad.
You will.
Unless you're me, in which case you'll just laugh every time you die and go, "Yeah, let's do it again."
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat.
Or run halfway across the map and fight a boss that you have no business of beating at that point in time, but you're
Yeah.
stuck.
Well, it's
Yeah,
also very
sometimes you just
heavy
gotta do it.
skill. Like it's very
Yeah,
skill oriented. Like you can
yeah,
beat any boss at any level. It's not impossible. You can no hit the entire Elden Beast fight at the very end of the game. Matt did it right in front of me. It's completely possible. It's just unlikely.
Yeah, which
Also,
is fine. Um,
Dragon's Dogma is up there as one of the best RPGs ever. Check out
that's
Dragon's
facts.
Dogma, Darkness Arisen. It's incredible. Right when you think the game's over, it's not. You barely even touch the game. Capcom did an incredible job with Dragon's Dogma, and it does not get enough appreciation.
facts.
Yeah, that's facts. Capcom is an incredible company. They're amazing. I love you guys. Don't sponsor me, but I love you, Capcom.
Hashtag not sponsored.
I bought Resident Evil 4 16 times.
Also, stop what you're doing, Capcom, with the bullshit tournament rules. That shit's dumb.
Also, please stop selling Resident Evil 4. I can't afford it.
But thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like long form factor content like this and podcasts, hit the subscribe button down below. You can find a link to Red's channel. Go check him out. You are
And
still
also
working
the
on stuff.
do bell do. Yeah, I'm still working on stuff, but fuck me and my channel. There's also the bell down there that you can click that'll keep you up to date with this channel. And if you happen upon my stuff while you're down there clicking the bell, then go over on there if you think that's interesting.
Yeah, subscribe.
But yeah, subscribe. Subscribe here, hit the bell, and we love you.
Um, Also, we have Argurndy. This is for the fans, where we are doing ARGs and stuff like that. We might be exploring more stuff where the A is going to be anime,
More Zelda
cartoons,
soon.
TV.
Uh, yeah, anime is a biggie. More Zelda soon. We got to finish Zelda. We're getting on nearing the midway point in that game. There's still quite a bit of game left, but like we definitely are going to get back to that.
It's been 2 weeks. It hasn't been that long.
Yeah,
Wow, I finished Final Fantasy Crisis Core 2 weeks ago. Feels like just yesterday.
we pissed away time playing Elden Ring.
Oh my god, I love Elden Ring.
I know, me too. It's such a good game, isn't it?
Same here. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go piss away another 100 hours in it.
Only 100.
I'm gonna go beat it 6 more times.
I've got to go waste my life on Valorant and Elden Ring and various fighting games.
Bye, everyone.